Welcome back to TEDxSantaClaraUniversity 2021. We are very excited to have all of you here today watching. Yesterday was fantastic. Thanks to all of you who are joining us again for the second time around. Today promises to be just as amazing as we have three fantastic speakers that we have lined up for you guys. And we really can't wait for them to share their ideas that are worth spreading. Before we jump into that, before we jump into our first speaker, Dr. Alan Desmond, we want to give a huge thanks and huge shout out to, of course, those behind the scenes that make this possible and make this happen. Really, as the president of this organization, having a strong team behind that helps put this all together makes the job much, much easier. So to our speaker team who helped bring in these great speakers, thank you guys very, very much. You guys did a fantastic job. Really helped, put out a really great turnout for such an uncertain time and, a virtual event. And to the marketing team, we had a fantastic first year leading the way, did a fantastic job bringing all of you here today, joining us from the Facebook live stream or the YouTube live stream. So very excited to see all of you guys. Without further ado, we would love to jump in to our TED Talks for the day and part 2 of our event. As always, stay on to the very end. As we have some fun raffle prizes that all of you were entered into that we'll give away at the end of our event. But before that, I'd love to bring on our first speaker of the day, Dr. Alan Desmond, aka the Gut Doctor. And really, he's going to be talking to us today about why food matters and really, breaking down some of the things behind the scenes that, we don't understand about the things that we eat and why the things that we eat may lead to us acting a certain way, feeling a certain way, and really, what's behind this food and really why does food matter. So without further ado, I'll bring Dr. Alan Desmond to the stage and we'll get TEDxSantaClaraUniversity 2021, Reimagine Tomorrow, Day 2 kicked off.
Thanks, Darius, and thanks for inviting me. It's such a pleasure to be here with you all virtually. Today, I'd like to share with you the #1 lesson that I've learned in 20 years as a medical doctor, and that lesson is deceptively simple. Here it is. Food matters. When it comes to optimizing your health today and increasing your chances of a longer and happier life in the future, the food that you eat really matters. It becomes a long time to become a doctor. I entered medical school in 1995 and finally qualified as a doctor in 2001. In 2003, with 2 busy years as an intern behind me, I had my first rotation in gastroenterology, joining a team of more senior doctors and other health professionals caring for hospitalized patients with serious digestive problems. One of our patients was a 19-year-old man with a new diagnosis of Crohn's disease, a form of inflammatory bowel disease which causes inflammation within the bowel and its lining. Now, for both doctor and patient, this condition can be extremely difficult to manage. But after 2 days of receiving strong steroid medications to reduce the inflammation, our patient was doing quite well. We reassured him that the treatment was working and the likelihood of needing surgery in the short term was low. We planned to start a new immune suppressing medication within days, and soon he would be able to eat normally again. And then came the question. The same question that every patient asks their gastroenterologist. What should I eat? Our young patient asked this because he knew intuitively that food can play a vital role in helping to improve his health, optimize his quality of life, and maybe even to help him heal and recover from this illness. My boss's answer surprised him. I can still see the look on that young man's face when he heard it. My boss told him, it doesn't matter. Eat whatever you feel like. Calories are calories, and calories are important for healing. He asked the young man if he liked McDonald's. Maybe his mom could bring him in some McDonald's. This answer was surprising, but it reflected mainstream thinking at the time. Calories were just calories. In fact, this question, what should I eat, that this young man asked us, may be one of the most important questions of the 21st century. Doctors have known that food is tightly linked to health and disease since the dawn of modern medicine. In the 5th century BC, the Greek physician Hippocrates, the father of modern medicine, taught his students that diet was the most powerful tool of all in maintaining health and treating disease. He taught them that food matters. In the 20th century, traditional food preparation was gradually replaced by vast industrial methods that prioritize low cost and long shelf life over nutritional value. New food like products were carefully crafted to provide that perfect mix of salt, sweet, and oily calories that would make them irresistible to our primitive survivalist brains, and we lapped them up. Thanks to the global rise of the standard Western diet, we now consume more meat, more dairy, and more highly processed junk food than ever before in human history. And the result is that the direct link between food and health has become more obvious than ever. To quote Dr. David Katz, in the 21st century, our food has been transformed from our essential sustenance to our number one driver of poor health and chronic disease. In high income countries like the UK, food has overtaken alcohol use, illicit drugs, and lack of exercise as the number one driver of poor health. In the US, food has been the number one driver of poor health for years. And the statistics on just how unhealthy we are have become sobering. In the US right now, 1 in 10 working adults live with type 2 diabetes, and 1 in 12 have been diagnosed with heart disease. 1 in 5 working US adults are now living with multiple chronic health problems. After decades of great leaps forward in preserving human life and health, we are now at a point where the next generation are likely to enjoy fewer healthy years of life than their parents or grandparents. Now, if food is the problem, what is the scientific solution? A few years ago, one of the world's most prestigious medical journals, The Lancet, handpicked an international panel of experts and asked them to provide an evidence based answer to that same question: what should we eat? Having studied decades of science on food, human health, and food production, they came up with what they called the Planetary Health Plate. Published in January of 2019, it remains a blueprint to feed all of humanity while keeping us at our healthiest. And here it is. Half our food should be fruits and vegetables. The other half should consist of whole grains, plant proteins like beans, lentils, pulses, nuts, plus unsaturated plant oils, and some added sugars and starchy vegetables. Meat, dairy, and eggs should be regarded as optional and consumed very modestly, if at all. Their verdict on red meat was clear. The healthiest amount to eat is probably zero, especially if it's replaced with healthy plant-based sources of protein. And the highly processed junk foods that now make up more than half of all calories we consume, they shouldn't even be on the menu. This hand-picked panel of global experts want the globe to go plant-based. They projected that making this switch globally would save 12 million preventable deaths per year, not to mention the hundreds of millions of heart attacks, cardiac stents, cancer diagnosis, strokes, and other hospital admissions that would be avoided because food matters. When I read this report, I was incredibly excited to see this science enter the mainstream. Like many other doctors and dietitians around the globe, like Neil Bernard, Caldwell Esselstyn Jr., Dr. Will Bultwitz, Brenda Davis, Garth Davis, and many more besides, I'd already been helping my patients to maximize their health by eating like this for years, because we want our patients to eat like the healthiest people on the planet. 20 years ago, a team of researchers led by journalist Dan Buettner found the longest living and healthiest community in the United States, just a few miles from Santa Clara University, among the Seventh-day Adventist community of Loma Linda, California. A genetically diverse population who put a great emphasis on healthy living, faith, community, and eating a vegetarian or vegan diet. Compared to their neighbors, their rates of chronic diseases like heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, and digestive cancers were incredibly low, thanks to their healthy lifestyle and plant-powered approach to food, Seventh-day Adventist females live for 89 years, and most of those years are healthy. That's 11 years longer than the US average. Back in 2007, the Annals of the Academy of Science published the dietary habits of the longest lived and healthiest people ever recorded on the planet. Traditional Okinawans in Okinawa, Japan, generally those born before 1942, had spent their lives eating a 97% whole food vegetarian diet in a world where food has become the number one determinant of human health and longevity. They were 80% less likely to ever develop heart disease and 85% less likely to ever develop breast or prostate cancer. In the US and the UK, we view these common diseases as inevitable, but they are not inevitable because food matters. On average, vegetarians are 3 times less likely than meat eaters to have healthy dietary intakes. Vegans are 32 times more likely to make the grade and benefit from eating, on average, fewer calories, less salt, less saturated fat, and less cholesterol than meat eaters. A plant-based approach also actively corrects the most common dietary deficiencies that are responsible for driving chronic disease in high-income countries. Your plant-filled plate is naturally packed with more fiber, folate, vitamins A, C, E, thiamine, riboflavin, magnesium, healthy oils, copper, and yes, iron than the average meat-based plate. And because food matters, all this healthy eating pays off. Vegans and vegetarians are less likely to be diagnosed with diseases including ischemic heart disease, type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, multiple types of cancer, or to live with obesity. It shouldn't surprise you to learn that exclusively plant-based diets have been endorsed as healthy by the British Dietetic Association, the American Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, the Canadian Healthy Eating Guidelines, the American Cancer Society, the World Health Organization, the American Academy of Lifestyle and Medicine, and by the American Medical Association, who in 2020 asked the US Department of Agriculture to stop naming meat and dairy as mandatory food groups because, and I quote, these products are not nutritionally required and are strongly linked to increased risk for prostate cancer, colorectal cancer, and cardiovascular mortality. Cardiovascular mortality. Cardiovascular disease is the world's number one killer. Heart attacks and strokes kill more than 650,000 people in the US each year. That's one death every 36 seconds. But it doesn't have to be like that because up to 90% of those cases are preventable by a healthier diet and lifestyle. And it turns out that a naturally high fiber plant-based diet that contains zero cholesterol can substantially reduce your risk. In 2015, the president of the American Heart Association made the following observation. There are two kinds of cardiologists, he said, vegans and those who haven't read the data. 5 years later, in 2020, the AHA officially recommended a whole food vegetarian diet as the best diet for cardiovascular disease prevention and put the following advice on their website. Whether you're considering eating less meat or giving it up entirely, the benefits are clear. Less risk of disease and improved health and well-being. Last year, I put this to the test. I recruited 150 meat-eating health professionals and I put them on a whole food plant-based diet for the first time. After just 28 days of eating dishes like Mexican-style black beans, pan-fried mushrooms on toast, or plant-powered spaghetti bolognese, without calorie counting and with no portion control, they saw some serious health benefits. Those with high blood pressure saw an average drop of 14 millimeters of mercury. Those with high bad cholesterol saw an average drop of 30%. Ask your cardiologist. Those are impressive numbers. I'm incredibly proud that family physicians can now offer the same program to their patients in my locality free of charge. But I'm a gastroenterologist, so let's get back to the gut. One of the main reasons that food matters is because the effects that the foods we eat have on the human gut microbiome. And if you've never heard of the gut microbiome, then I've got some good news for you. We are not alone. Each one of us carries up to 100 trillion microbes in our gut. There are more microorganisms inside your digestive tract right now than there are trees on the earth or stars in the Milky Way. These microscopic bacteria, archaea, viruses, and yeasts make up your gut microbiome, which contains 10 times more cells and 100 times more genetic material than the rest of your body combined. Now, human beings are very complex creatures. We've existed for about 200,000 years, but our gut bugs are far more ancient. They are the descendants of the Earth's first living inhabitants, microorganisms that appeared on Earth between 2 and 4 billion years ago. They've been with humans on every step of our evolutionary journey, and they are still with us today. And if we feed these bugs the correct foods, they can have incredibly positive effects on our health and longevity. The 2.5 pounds of microbes we each carry in our gut have been described as a control center for human biology. The science clearly shows that our standard Western diet, which is high in meat, high in fat, high in processed food, high in junk food, and plant deficient, may be the biggest threat to our human gut microbial health that we've ever faced. But we can push back and we can harness the power of a healthier gut microbiome by focusing our dietary intakes on a variety of whole plant-based foods. These foods will help us to nurture a healthier gut microbiome that better protects our delicate intestinal lining from becoming leaky and dysfunctional, is better at regulating our immune system, our appetite, our blood sugar, and is far less likely to produce harmful metabolites that promote inflammation and poor health. Because food matters to our gut microbiome just as much as it matters to us. Those were the lessons I learned before COVID-19. In spring of 2020, the learning curve accelerated. I gave up my specialist practice as a gastroenterologist and went to work on the COVID-19 frontline, caring for severely unwell patients. We quickly learned that the same conditions that had already been depriving us of healthy years of life were even more hazardous when our bodies were invaded by this new disease. Here in the UK, on my ward, as well as in China, New York, and around the world, the statistics were the same. People living with high blood pressure, high cholesterol, heart disease, obesity, or type 2 diabetes were far more likely to become critically unwell or die once they were infected with COVID-19. In August of 2020, the UN issued a report calling for action to prevent the next zoonotic pandemic. And the number one action they recommended that each of us can take to prevent the next zoonotic pandemic: to remove or substantially reduce the meat on our plates. Because the dietary habits that require an average 100 kilograms of meat for each adult require us to raise more than 70 billion land animals each year solely for the purpose of eating them, usually in cramped and unsanitary conditions, fed antibiotics to keep them somewhere close to being healthy enough to eat. Animals, humans, and their diseases have never been closer. These conditions make future zoonotic pandemics inevitable. A wise person once said that humans can only change once they have suffered. Only by recognizing the pain that our habits impose upon us can we identify the need to improve. We're now 18 months into this pandemic. We've lost 3.3 million loved ones, and we are only beginning to understand the long-term health implications for the hundreds of millions of people who've been infected by this virus. Our elder communities were decimated by the first waves of infection, and those living in care facilities were then condemned to more than a year of close to solitary confinement, unable to hug or even see their loved ones. Our lives have been turned upside down. Our children have been unable to enter their classrooms and have learned how to keep a safe distance from everyone. So here's my question. Have we suffered enough? Have we now suffered enough to make this simple change? 18 years after that first encounter with the young man with Crohn's disease, who turned to his doctors and asked, "What should I eat?" I make sure to talk to my patients about food choices all the time. By pushing back against the standard Western diet and embracing a more plant based approach to food, I've seen patients of all ages improve both their gut health and overall health, achieve a healthier body weight, improve their mood, and even reverse long term illness. Working with my friends, plant based chefs Stephen and David Flynn, and registered dietitian Rosie Martin, I created the Happy Gut, an online program with a community that now includes more than 15,000 individuals from around the globe who have optimized their digestive health by unprocessing their diet and eating more plants. Here's what one community member, Jonathan, told us. As someone who has suffered dietary issues for as long as I can remember, this has been an absolute game changer. Improved sleep, improved mood, significant reduction in stomach discomfort, a return to an appreciation for food. The best decision I've ever made. And results like this have become commonplace in my clinic too. Each one of us knows intuitively that the foods we consume can play a key role in determining our health today and our health into the future. The scientific evidence shows us that this is absolutely true. Food is medicine. To maximize your chances of health right now and into the future, to reduce your risk of chronic illness and add healthy years to your life, you've got to start with the food on your plate. So here's what I want you to do. Go online today and search for healthy vegan recipes. I just did this. I got 933 million hits. Do you like lasagna? Great. How about lasagna that uses lentils instead of ground beef? Do you like chicken pot pie? Well, tonight you can have a delicious chickpea pot pie. Find recipes that are familiar to you and your family. And remember that healthier eating is not about fancy or niche ingredients. It's not even about labeling yourself as a vegan or a vegetarian. It's about choosing to build all of your meals, or most of them, from the foods that have been consistently shown to benefit human health and longevity. Fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans, legumes, nuts, and seeds in variety and abundance. And before you ask, no, you will not become protein deficient. All plants contain protein. Vegans and vegetarians eat an average of 80 grams of protein per day without even counting. And if you need more protein than that, then simply eat more food. And all plants contain all 20 of the amino acids your body needs to build proteins, including all of the essential amino acids. If you are eating a varied veggie diet and eating to your natural appetite, protein deficiency is not a thing. Food matters. Whether we are aiming to prevent or treat so many of the chronic diseases that have become commonplace in the 21st century, a whole food and plant-based diet has something to offer. As a doctor, I make sure that my patients are told that food really matters. I usually convince them that this is true, and I hope that I've convinced you. Thank you.
Wow, I gotta go check my plate next time I eat, Dr. Alan Desmond. Thank you so much for running through that. That was amazing for us to just listen to you and your insights, and things that we may take for granted or don't look deep into about our health, and how to better our gut, and truly why food matters. So that was fantastic. Next up, we have a outstanding student at Santa Clara University. I know him personally. We're so excited when We heard that he was interested in giving a talk. As Ross, has so much information and, key insights on the career process, that, this was a great fit for us to have Ross come on and share his ideas and his background and kind of his thoughts on the overall career process. And I'm very excited to welcome him in, to have him join you all and to share his ideas that are worth spreading. So without further ado, we're going to bring Ross here to the stage. And I'm excited to hear what Ross has to share with us today.
Yeah, first off, thank you so much, Darius, and to the rest of the TEDx team for all this. Thanks so much for putting this all together. And during my senior year of high school, I was enjoying a nice Thanksgiving dinner with my family. Everything was going great. The food was delicious. The company was great. And then it all changed when my aunt asked me the one question that no 17-year-old wants to answer. What do you want to do for a career? My mind froze. Anxiety instantly rose upon me, and I felt inadequate because I did not know the answer to this question. I quickly stumbled upon a random answer that hopefully pleased her, quickly got out of that conversation, and then went through the rest of the night praying that nobody would ask me that again. The question, what do you want to do, is a very common question to ask. Young adults get this all the time. So why did this question cause so much anxiety for me and the other young people like me? It's because of the myth of a career destiny that suggests that we should automatically know what career is right for us, almost as if there's some DNA trait that instantly tells us this. As young adults, we are expected to know exactly what we want to do, but are rarely given resources or opportunities to discover those interests ourselves. To counter this, we need to integrate career opportunities into the educational curriculum, and we need to improve the process of career exploration. The first reason why we need to do this is so that students do not feel inadequate if they have no idea what they want to do. If they feel this way, they may avoid the conversation of careers simply because they don't want to be judged or feel like a failure for it, just like I did at that Thanksgiving dinner. When students feel this way, they just avoid it and they don't give themselves a chance to actually discover their interests. And so it's very important to do this and we need to open the culture for it to be okay to have no idea what you want to be doing, and then encourage students to start that exploration process themselves. The second reason why we need to do this is because if students do not go through the career exploration process, they often succumb to pursuing careers based on external interests rather than their own interests. One way we see this is the dramatic influence that parents and other family members have on students' career discernment journeys. We conducted a survey with a wonderful group of 10 that helped me out with this on career exploration. And we surveyed 450 students and interviewed 90 of them. The number one way students were introduced to their career of interests was through family or family friends, with 28% of college students responding this way and 40% of high school students responding this way. This may not seem like a problem, and it isn't always one. However, it can be if what that person's parents or family does isn't aligned with that individual's interests. People may spend years, decades, or even their entire lives pursuing something that does not interest them just because they never found out what was interesting to them. Another issue that happens is that it further divides the socioeconomic classes. Someone who comes from a wealthy background will likely be exposed to more careers that are higher paying jobs compared to someone who comes from a lower socioeconomic status. People from these underserved areas are already at a huge disadvantage because of lack of resources and opportunities, and not exposing them to more careers just furthers this divide. A third reason is the external pressure that students face to pursue a prestigious path. For example, parents may pressure their own students and children to pursue to become a doctor or lawyer, or students may feel pressured to become a highly sought after prestigious job. But these paths may not be the best fit for these individuals. So there's no way it should be the default option for them. We talked about the need for career exploration, and now we need to talk about how we can do this. The first step is to let students understand that they cannot confirm whether a career is of interest to them without actually exploring it. We conducted another survey with students to figure out what the number one frustration was with their career exploration process with 450 students. And 21% of respondents said it was the struggle to find the right career path for them. These 21% of students view career exploration as marriage, in that as soon as they select something, they are committed to it and can never change. But in reality, career exploration is more like dating, in that you can go on different dates with different careers to see which ones truly interest you. If it doesn't go well, you can say, hey, no, I don't want this, I'm out, try a different career. But if you continue to like it, then you can continue dating that career and potentially make it your career one day. Just as you cannot confirm whether someone is your soulmate after the first date, you cannot confirm whether whether a career is right for you without actually exploring what it entails. Adam Grant, an organizational psychologist and professor at the Wharton School of Business, said in his book, Think Again, that quote, kids might be better off learning about careers as actions to take, rather than as identities to claim. When they see work as what they do, rather than who they are, they become more open to exploring different possibilities. One reason why students may be so hesitant to choose a potential option is that because it becomes part of their identity and therefore difficult to change. This mindset creates the need for their first career option to be the correct one, which is why so many students are reluctant to have a career interest in the first place. Instead, we should view careers as simply actions to take that can always be changed. And the best way to start this career exploration journey is to do it young. In my book, Take Advantage of Your Youth, I propose a 4-step formula for how to go about the career exploration journey. 1, online research. 2, informational interviews. 3, the first opportunity. And finally, continuing that path. The first step, online research, is a very simple, easy way to get a baseline understanding of what that career does. You can simply go on Google and ask, oh, what does this career do? Or what are the pros and cons of this career? Through about 15 minutes, more or less, you can get a pretty good understanding of whether that thing may be interesting to you. And if it's not, you wasted about 15 minutes. That's nothing. And if it does interest you, then you can move on to the next stage, which is informational interviews. And informational interviews are just scary terms for a conversation with a professional that you're interested in a field that you're interested in. And you can ask them questions such as, oh, well, how'd you get introduced to this career? What are the pros and cons of your jobs? What do you typically do on a day-to-day basis? That way you can get that way you can see their firsthand experience and to hear it from them. I was very fortunate enough to be introduced to informational interviews in my freshman year of college when I took a class by Sean O'Keefe, the founder and CEO of Career Launch. He taught me the value of informational interviews and how to conduct them. And throughout my 4 years of college, I was able to have over 100 informational interviews and explore over 10 career paths. And I was able to discover which ones did interest me, and almost as important, which ones did not interest me. And without all of these conversations, I likely would be still very confused with my own career discernment journey. And I'm not alone. With our other students also found this to be very helpful informational interviews. From our 90 interviews that we conducted, 45% of students said that the most important thing for their career discernment journey was talking to either professionals or older peers. It's clear that talking to people is very helpful, and informational interviews can do that for you. And if informational interviews continue to pique your interest, then you can move on to the third step, which is the first opportunity. While learning about someone's experience is great, and I encourage you to do that, you do have to experience that firsthand for your success for yourself. This could mean either an apprenticeship, an internship, or shadowing somebody. And let's say that you really love that and want more exposure, you can continue pursuing that path as long as you like. As you may imagine, the last two steps take significantly more time than the first two steps. So the idea is to spread a wide net of potential career paths for you to go into. And that way you can validate which careers you should be entering for the third and fourth step, which do take longer. Unfortunately, we cannot get real life exposure to every single career path because there's a lack of time. However, by utilizing this 4-step method, we can be able to improve the chances that the careers we choose for the third and fourth steps are the right ones. We also need to understand that we are never stuck into a certain career path. Adam Grant proposes to have checkups, very similar to what you would have for the doctor's office, to check in on your career and reflect whether it's the right thing for you or not. And if it's not, you should pivot. We should never feel stuck in a career path of interest to us, since our priorities constantly change. The average person spends 90,000 hours at work. And I don't know about you, but I do not want to spend all that time in something that I am not passionate about. So the time it takes for career exploration may seem like a lot of time, but when we consider the dramatic amount of time that we will spend at work, the need for career exploration becomes clear. And it will all be worth it if we find a career that truly interests us. The second solution for improving this whole process is to integrate career opportunities into the curriculum. It's not enough to just learn about these subjects. We also need to learn how to implement them into our own career. One way we can do this is, I was exposed to hardly any career paths through my classes or in my majors or classes. And based on my research, I am not alone. We conducted a survey and put that in. And we found out that when we asked how many careers were students exposed to by their college, we found out that only 15% of students were exposed to 5 or more careers by their university. Only 15%. And 66% of them were introduced to 2 to 4 careers, 15% were introduced to 1 career, and 4% were introduced to zero careers by their colleges. And this number is not good for us. This number is not good for us and should be much higher. 4 or less careers is not enough to properly explore careers, yet 85% of students face that. I lucked out that I had great mentors and people to help me out with this process, who showed me how to properly do the career exploration process. But what if I wasn't this lucky? I would likely be very confused with my own direction and have no idea what I want to pursue, which is what many students are facing right now through no fault of their own. By not introducing students to their career paths, it limits the full exposure, that's full scope of opportunities that students can have for themselves. Because most people are able to find careers through people who they know. And if no one around them knows about a certain career path, it's likely that that person won't become exposed to it either. And this is why we need to adapt towards a career-driven approach in our education system. One idea is to provide more exposure to which careers are available within each field or major. For example, I'm a finance major, and it would have been great to learn about different careers that I can do with my major. For instance, learning about which ones are out there, what careers each entail, and also how to enter that field. And every single field or major can also benefit this as well, especially ones where it's a little bit more ambiguous on what you can do with that career, such as history or women and gender studies or anything like that. None of these, it would also be helpful to learn about professional skills, such as how to go about the job hunting search, or how to network with professionals, or how to build a LinkedIn profile, or do informational interviews. These steps are arguably more important for helping us to find great jobs out of college. Yet currently, most of colleges do not actually have this into their own curriculum. So it's very important that we do this. We all know that we eventually have to start our own career path. By avoiding this conversation, it does not alleviate our worries. It just makes us more stressed about the future. And we need to really make sure we do this to really like alleviate our worries. I believe a better world exists where everyone is doing something that interests them. Not only would they be more passionate about their work and be overall happy and more fulfilled, they would also be able to create a stronger society by utilizing their strengths to positively impact the world around us. There is infinite potential within each individual. However, many people are not doing what they want to do in their own career, which leaves gaps because people are not able to fully utilize their strengths and skills. By investing more time into the career exploration process and shifting the education system to be more career-driven, we can create the next generation of passionate workers who are inspired to create impacts they care about. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ross. That was fantastic. It's crazy. Ross is, just a graduating senior in college and already has written a book, Take Advantage of Your Youth. Definitely got to check that out. Thanks for really sharing your insights on the career process, Ross, and how it worked for you and how others can take advantage of it, even in the early stages. And now, bittersweet moment here, our final talk of this year. And, we couldn't end it any better way. We have a leader in the information technology space joining us, Guillermo Diaz Jr., who currently served as the Chief Information Officer for Cisco and now serves as the CEO of CloudSpot, a AI and IoT business. And, we are very thrilled to talk to Guillermo today and really see and hear his thoughts on the future of technology, its connection with us, and really what he sees as trends and his thoughts and his calls to action and his ideas that are worth spreading. So without further ado, would love to give the stage over to Guillermo Diaz and have him close us off here today.
Thanks, Darius. Reimagine tomorrow, the future. Somebody is shaping the future. Why not you? I continuously ask myself that question. Someone's going to shape the future. Why not me? Why not you? When we were ringing, if anything that we learned in the last year, when we were ringing in 2020, did we think that when we were cheering with coronas, that corona was going to mean something totally different in the last year? And what we learned was change is going to happen by us, with us, or to us. And we saw businesses change. We saw businesses digitize in a faster rate than they ever thought and imagined before. 7 times what they thought they were going to do. If you don't have a digital strategy as a business, you do now, or you're not going to be alive as a business in the future. Who would have thought that suddenly on March 12th of 2020 that we would see this verb called Zoom? Did anybody know what Zoom was? I knew what it was, but you saw an exacerbation of video calling for how we work, how we learn, and even importantly, how we communicate with our families. Zoom, WebEx, Google, they all were being used at rates that were unprecedented. Learning, they were used for that. But yet, such an opportunity exists to shape the future of learning and education. Because even though we saw that, 31% of the school children that needed access to technology could not have it. But thanks to the work of UNICEF and the GIGA project, we will have internet access in the future, and hopefully very soon. So somebody's shaping the future. Why not you? You know, I want to tell this story. I had the opportunity to get interviewed by the great Mabel Ochoa. Now, you might not know her yet, but you will. Who is Mabel? Mabel is a 14-year-old student of Cristo Rey High School that, with a partnership with CloudSpot, we have a work-study program. And Mabel works 1 day a week at CloudSpot, my company, and she goes to school 4 days. Now, she does this remotely. So this interview really opened my eyes. But I asked her a question before she got into the interview with me. I said, Mabel, look at this data. Now tell me something. What would you do without this? What would you do without that device? She looked at me and she's like, wow, I don't know. Now, I do my studies on my laptop, on my computer, but I collaborate and I communicate with my friends, and I do things on this device that if I didn't have it, I don't know what I would do, because I play on it, I communicate with my friends. But then she asked me, what would you do? And I started sweating. I was like, oh my gosh, anybody that knows me knows that that thing is my Rolodex. It's how I get around. It's how I communicate, collaborate. It's how we all do. What would you do without that device? But somebody created that device. Someone has developed, especially in the last year, the applications that have connected us, that allowed us to work, that allowed us to play, that allowed us to collaborate with our family and our friends. Somebody did that. Why not you? So the conversation went on, and she said, you know, well, what would we do back, you know, gee, in your day? And okay, you're saying I'm old? She said, but you know, Mabel, our mobile device was a longer extension cord on a phone. But I'm thinking back and thinking, what happened if the pandemic happened during those times when the only other way to see our friends was on the bike, calling on the phone? You know, that was our mobile device to get around this place where I started from. And anybody that knows me knows that I'm very proud of where I come from, Pueblo, Colorado, my Aunt Mary's store, where I learned how to connect with people, getting around to the baseball field on the bike and going to high school. This is where it all started, Mabel. Just like where you come from, the East Side. I was from the East Side. And the odds are against us. Somebody's going to do those things. Why not me? Now, coming from the East Side, those odds were against me. Being Hispanic, those odds were against me. But I did know one thing, Mabel, that I was going to get my degree. So my mom and I decided I was going to go to the Navy. I was going to get money to go to university because it was going to be not the traditional route to get to my degree. But what I learned in that was far more than just schoolwork. I learned, because I grew up in a predominantly Hispanic environment, that there's other cultures, there's other ethnicities, and people, I've been able to connect with people. But I also learned about this cool thing called technology, and I happen to be in the networking and telecommunication space. Security, I learned about a lot of these things even before they were a thing. But I also learned about perseverance, and I also learned about this thing called, why not me? Somebody's going to do it, why not me? And I still remember this story so vividly. I was 18 years old. I was in the line. We were doing an inspection. Commander comes in front of me. And, we were about a week into our boot camp, and I had hair like this. I had this side shaved, and the commander asked me, remove your hat, remove your cover. So I removed my cover. And he said, why did they let a Cholo Chicano like you in my Navy? I thought I held everything that I wouldn't do something stupid. And I held it, and I said, one thing happened. And I want to thank that commander, because I said at that moment that no one is ever going to tell me what I can and cannot do. That someone was going to do something to shape the future, why not me? And you fast forward, as I got my degree, Regis University, and that it was a non-traditional path, which led me to a great career at Cisco Systems, the best networking company in the world, where I became, and I still remember the call very vividly, G, are you ready? G, are you ready? Yes, I'm ready. Then we're ready to tell you they're the Chief Information Officer of Cisco, a $50 billion, with a B, company that has transformed the world in how we work, live, play, and learn. Wow. The technology kid from Pueblo, Colorado, the Chief Information Officer. That night I'm scratching my head saying, someone's going to do this job, why not me? And why not me to help lead this great organization called HITECH, which is the Hispanic Technology Executive Council, which is focused on raising and bringing up the next generation of technology leaders that happen to be Latino, Hispanic. And why not me to become the CEO of CloudSpot that is bringing and driving the safety of new experiences? And why not me to be on the board of directors of Blue Shield of California? Why not me? Mabel, why not you? That is the lesson here. I also, Mabel, learned about my identity, building my identity. Now, I grew up, this guy, I was born, on my birth certificate it said Guillermo, but I grew up most of my life Memo. And yes, I've been called other things, but at the end of the day, call me G if you can't say my name. But I also learned that I was building this digital identity. Now, my friend Selena Rivera and Yamila Harris call this, and they're building a practice around this called the digital you. To be able to bring these worlds together. And if you think about this, this is the hybrid world. How we live the human network and how we live the technology network, and bringing those together. And yes, if you look me up on Peloton, my name is DidGTel. So building this hybrid you, or this future you. Now, just by you being on this broadcast, you have a digital you. How are you branding that? How are you branding your human network and your technology network? Building the future you, Mabel. And by the way, there's several others. There's other examples. Like, for example, in the sustainability area, we have Maria Fernanda Reyes that is building an agriculture technology company called FarmX to bring the farmers and the consumers closer together, using technology. Because one thing that we did learn, that there's been a challenge in the farming communities in the past year especially, and she's aiming to solve that problem and hopefully reduce the waste and the produce waste that happens. Farm X, watch out for that, my bad. We have in the investment space, we have a woman, a unicorn called Silvina Moschini. Silvina, with her unicorn company called Transparent Business, has shown us not only can she do it, not only can she become a unicorn and show us how the future of investing is going to happen, but she's doing it for others, launching a new platform and a new show that will rival Shark Tank, called the Unicorn Hunters. And we will all be able to gain access to these investments. Some of us never had that access before, and now we will because of people like Silvina. Healthcare Reimagined. Paul Markowitz and the Blue Shield team really helping us understand how we're going to imagine the healthcare industry, how we're going to drive the digitization and drive it to a digital platform and build a healthcare system that's worthy of our family and friends. And what we're doing at CloudSpot to bring safe experiences to life, even bringing physical and virtual conference rooms together. People that are not even in the same room being able to collaborate and communicate like they were in an immersive experience. And there's many others. There's many others doing this, and they're all accelerated through technology. And you see it, the Robinhoods, the Bitcoins, Zoom, we already talked about that. But this is coming together, and it's accelerated, Mabel, through technology. So look for those examples, Mabel, and look for them and help them understand how you can shape the future. And not only look for the examples, but be an example, Mabel. In 2014, I was at Cisco Systems working with the Cristo Rey network. And they launched the chapter in Silicon Valley. Now, I mentioned it earlier, one day a week, these kids work at a company. They were working at Cisco 4 days a week, they go to school. Now, these kids come from the East Side. They come from where I come from. They didn't have access. They didn't understand as much about technology and how to connect with people. But when they came in, they started learning. We started getting them access, started showing them what their future could be. And if you fast forward to 2018, they were the first class. 2018, 100% of them went to college. And 90% of them were the first ones to go to college in their families. Now let's fast forward even again. And you look at Miguel. So Miguel, a rising senior, he's on his way at San Francisco State University. And he tells me that his plate is full. Myra Luna, Cornell University. And she's graduating early, December of 21. And our own Kaela Quinto, Santa Clara University. She's graduating early also, December of 21. So Mabel, when you see those examples, bring the next one with you. And although I've had a small part in helping shape the future of these students, it's a great feeling to know that you're leaving your fingerprints, some fingerprints on the world from where you came from. So we kind of had that conversation, and she asked me a final question. Guillermo, what would you tell your 14-year-old self? And I paused because it brought back so many memories. And I said, well, first of all, you always have to remember where you came from to know where you're going. And that change is going to happen like we saw in the past year. But change is going to happen by us, with us, or to us. But number one, never ever let anyone tell you what you can or cannot do. Number two, build your skills. Start thinking about what you want. You already are a digital native, Mabel, so you're coming at it the other way. You're a digital native. Now you need to go learn how to build your human network with that digital technology. Third is look for those examples. Look for those Maria Fernandas. Look for those Silvinas. Look for them. Model them. Start shaping the future. But more importantly, when you do that, bring up the next one. Build more future yous. And Mabel, always ask yourself, someone's going to do that. Why not me? Mabel, you build the future of you. Thank you.
Round of applause. To Guillermo. It's a fantastic talk. Really inspired all of us with your story. And I loved how you were, directly relating your story to an individual, really made it personal. And also you gave some fantastic thoughts, made me excited about what to see in the future. And why not me? And why not all of you here on this live stream as well? And what not a better way to end, one of the most challenging events that us as an organization, has ever had to put on, but more so one of the most exciting events, and really having all of you here to share it with us, the fantastic speakers from yesterday, Mark, Maggie, Moon, and then, today with Alan, Ross, and now Guillermo. Fantastic talks, fantastic stories, fantastic calls to action. And I hope all of you watching can at least take one nugget from what you've learned from yesterday and today and apply it into your own lives and really help make the world a better place through all these ideas the speakers have that we're spreading. But as we promised, we won't end the day until we jump in with our final raffle. And that means I'm going to bring that rock star first year I mentioned earlier that's led all of our marketing efforts, Matthew, to the stage and have him announce the winners. And as always, as we mentioned yesterday, if you are one of the winners of one of our Uber gift cards, feel free to email us, TEDx@su.edu, to claim the prize. And let me bring on Matthew now.
Thank you, Darius. So yeah, I have the pleasure of announcing the final raffle today. Just make sure, get this back up here. Sorry about that. So the two winners today of 2 Uber gift cards are Anne Nargon and Carol Shade. So Anne Nargon or Carol Shade, just send us a quick email to TEDx@su.edu and we'll get you hooked up. Thanks again to all the amazing speakers. This is a really, really fun day too and a really fun event.
Awesome. Thank you, Matthew. And really thank you for, helping bring everyone here, leading our marketing efforts. Fantastic job. Awesome. So that concludes TEDxSantaClaraUniversity 2021, Reimagine Tomorrow. Thank you again all for joining. My amazing team, all the hard work that you put in truly paid off. We had a fantastic event with fantastic speakers, all of you joining. I hope, again, you were able to get something a key nugget from the talks that you've heard today. And of course, to our amazing 6 speakers, both yesterday and today, thank you for your time, thank you for your insights, and thank you for your calls to action. As I know, it's really benefited me, and I feel a lot more knowledgeable because of it. So thank you all. Again, feel free to learn more about us at TEDxSU.com, to where have all our events, all the upcoming things that we're going to be having going on. In our event next year, TEDxSantaClaraUniversity 2022, will hopefully be able to bring all of you in person to the beautiful Santa Clara campus, where we can again be joined by 6 amazing speakers with hopefully more live, fun pre-event and post-event activities. But anyway, winners, feel free to email us. Everyone else, feel free to stay connected with us, and have a great rest of your day. And thank you all for joining. We appreciate it. Have a good one.